kind of processing going on in your mind. As soon as it pops up, your mind's going, sense, going into the eyeball, blah, 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 and it's oh, and it already knows what it is. Like a dog would know what it is. Okay? I don't know about a spire, but it might go, oh, it's home, or something. Okay? And the point is that it's just happening at our, I call it the receptive state. The receptive state of whatever senses. Okay? And that happens somewhere before we go into, oh, it's a spire. Now, again, we're not saying it, it's just that it fits into spire, churches, city, we're nearing the city centre, and all these different associations. And that's your kind of conceptual network of thoughts that we might have in our heads. Dogs might have similar kinds of things, but they don't really have this in a sophisticated way, let's just say. And then we're the ones that somehow or other have constructed words. Okay, representations to go, pop, it's a spire. We have this representation. So we have this kind of process, okay, where this is all within. I'm interested at this at various levels of temporal and conscious thought, and I'm specifically interested in the microsecond movement of our mind. Okay, so remember, all these things are happening simultaneously with the words, the phrases, our feelings, our thoughts, why are we here, why are we watching this, where we are in the world, who is this guy, who am I, all of that's happening currently in the moment as we go through time. Okay, and what we're attempting to do is use this to indicate some kind of phase. Okay, so what phase are we while we're listening, right? Now, most of the time, what we're doing is we're in this space. Okay, we're basically paying attention to the words. If we're paying attention to the words, we get into categories. And most philosophy is rabbiting on about categories. And if you're a category word person, well, they've gone. They're not listening to this. But if you're interested in concepts, oh, okay, so what's he talking about? I've got concepts. I think I know what I'm talking about. I think I know about some of these things. Great, okay, so we're kind of right here. Whereas actually what I'm really interested in the process before that, i.e. how do we make sense of the world in the first place? Okay, that's the receptive state. So I don't want to communicate words. I'm not conveying anything through words. I may be interested in the concepts, and mathematics does a fairly good job at that. I'm really interested in this bit, the receptive state of mind at the moment as we listen to anything, because I think that's where we exist. Okay? And we need to formulate some methods so that we are operating in this space. Now, in terms of that cycle, we have the spire. Okay, that's kind of happening here. We've got the spire as a reflective and receptive process. Oh, some part of our brain goes, oh, I know what that is. And then we've got this kind of conceptual network. Okay, and then we've got the verbalization of it, or externalization, or representation of it, spire. Now, what we can do is we can go backwards through this process, and that's kind of like meditation or philosophizing. We're going to the concepts, trying to understand it. And if you're doing meditation, you're kind of going backwards through the process, and then at this point here, I call it the revolution of mind. The Buddhists talk about that. And then you're into the receptive, projective space, the receptive processes of how any of this makes any sense whatsoever. It's not really in your projective network of what you think spires are related to churches or anything like that, or blah, blah, blah. You're talking about how any of it makes any sense in the first place. Okay? Now, to get to that space, okay, it's quite tricky. It's quite tricky. Because this, okay, so all of this is effectively post-conscious thought. So this is post-conscious thought, this is pre-conscious thought. The light's going into your eyeball, it goes into your brain, so various things are happening. What's a spire? Okay, now when we're talking, we're kind of, oh, it's one word, then it's another word, then it's another word. Right. So what we're interested in is how that correlates when we're engaging each other. Now it sounds to me as if I've worked all this shit out. No, I haven't. I'm just making it up as I go along. So we're on 31 minutes, and I'm attempting to describe this thing up here, and it's probably going to fall over. So I need to move this, move that. This is going to work. How can I do this? Oh, there we go. It's not bad, actually. Oh, no. Here we go. Oh, God. Okay, so. The technology, the meat world. Oh, no, it's going to slip over. So if you fall over, oh, I can see it slip. Oh, for God's sake. So we're trying to capture that bit there. Okay, no, that's just not happening. Okay, so if you nod off on me. Okay, so some of that light has been covered. Right. So what's happening here? Okay, so what I worked out is that there are different kind of like these 4 layers. Oh, Jesus Christ. You didn't just nod off, you just like, you nearly fell off your chair there. Sorry about that. Oh, for God's sakes. Pause. Okay. You're probably going to nod off again. And if you do, don't worry. I'll try and catch you. I'm trying to get rid of that. I can't get rid of some bloody line that's on there. Hopefully you're not looking at it. Right, so I've done this category system. Okay, so we've got these different phases that we're going through as we go through time. Okay, and the phases are represented by e to the tau, I is equal to 1. We're going to get to completion. Of course, this is happening all the time. We've got superimposed levels, superimposed words, different time frames, all this kind of stuff, Fourier transforms, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but basically, there are 4 phases to any one of these time, temporal, whatever temporal scale we're actually talking about. Okay, and we're interested in the moment that it's happening, because we're just traveling through time. All this is happening in a moment of our processing. Now, Wendy. I put Wendy at the top there just to indicate a person. So in this case, so I'm thinking of another person, but you might be thinking about me. Okay, so that you've got an object, a person. That's the object, the person, the body. So literally, it's me, the physical person, or the screen, the physical reality, and that's one aspect of a reality that's going on right now. Now, I happen to have a certain being or predisposition, attitudes, and so on and so forth. Okay, or Wendy's being or shape, which is forming the object of thought. Okay, so whenever it is that I'm chasing after, thinking about an object of thought, it is definitely informed by my shape of being. Okay, and let's say with Wendy, and Wendy then comes up with some words. Okay, now normally what happens is we have some words, and then we're trying to understand what those words are. We're trying to like work out what on earth the person they're talking about, that is the object of thought, or perhaps we're getting a sense of that person's being. So therefore, we can cross-reference whatever the other person is thinking that they're doing, or whatever it is that they're doing, okay, their identity. Now you can try and guess where I am, okay, and the focus on what you're listening to. Okay, so if you're listening to the words, well, as I say, the people listening to words, they've gone. They're not listening to this, okay? If they're aligning to object of thought, so if I'm listening to Wendy, and I'm listening, and she's kind of thinking about words and talking about words, and I then say something in relation to what she's talking about. She's been thinking about her words, and then I say something about, what she's trying to talk about or what she's thinking about. Okay, and she goes, oh, that's insightful because I'm relating to her actual object of thought, even though she was thinking about her words. However, if she's thinking about what she's trying to think about, and I align to that, and also aligning to object of thought, it means that we're both trying to chase the same kind of like thinking or thoughts, whether it's hers or mine or whoever's. Okay, and I'm aligning to that. Okay, that's different. But it depends. If she's actually being of shape and she's trying to express some kind of emotional thing or trying to reveal an aspect of her being, and I'm sitting there thinking just about thoughts, then when I say anything about thoughts, you'll just be like, oh, well, you're not really paying attention, you're not really listening. Similarly, resonance of being, that level which is to the being of shape. When I'm receptive, I'm actually thinking of this person and thinking, from where does this come from? The thoughts and here are the words, great. And there's chasing after some kind of thought, but who is this person? Why are they doing this? Okay, and listening to their shape of being as they are expressing themselves. You're doing that with me now. Okay. Now, if Wendy's again listening, she's just kind of thinking about what she's talking about. then my listening is not really to the words. Okay, so if I say anything to that, it'll be like a bit of, well, I wouldn't say this much, but I'm kind of listening very deeply. I'm structurally listening to her. If she's thinking about concepts and then I say something, she'll go, well, that was quite a, it's a thing. I'm listening to something different. Same with you, with me, by the way. Okay. And if she's actually trying to reveal something about her shape of being, not through the words and not through chasing after some object of thought, but in her expression it reveals who she is, and I'm receptive to that, then we are sharing being space. It means that I am receptive to her being, because my being is being responsive to her being, and we are sharing this kind of temporal being and temporal shape. And I'm responsive to her shape, and my shape is changing maybe to actually align to her shape, okay, of being. Or at least I can appreciate the difference. Okay? And finally, body sense. If I'm actually looking at her as an object, you're looking at me as an object, and we're aligned to that. So if Wendy's also thinking about it, I'm thinking of her as an object, she's thinking about herself as an object, then we're also like aligned to like body sense and so on and so forth. And if I start talking about thoughts or anything like that, it's like, wait a minute, you're ignoring me. So she's thinking about herself as a body, I'm thinking about, I don't know, object of thought, person, whatever. It's like, wait a minute, you're not paying attention to the fact that I physically exist here. I'm temporally in existence right here, right now. Okay, so it's a very deep level, physical one. The physical one appears like stupid. It's just like, oh, this could be considered sexual, but it's not. It's to do with being here. Like, you are literally being here, spending your time following this. And I'm not negligent of that. I'm not just going rabbiting on about some thoughts. I am aware that you are fully in existence now, taking time, being timeful. Okay, and everybody who's ever watched this and whoever will is with us now. That's a very deep level. Deep level. Not just we're just objects. No. There are alienating forms of this and resonant forms of all of these. Okay, so that's kind of like it starts getting complicated. Do you see? When we're actually talking about two human beings, it's not just one wave, one person with different time frames and everything else. We're talking about two human beings or multiple human beings. How do we correlate? So, and this is the final bit. We're into the final stretch, and we're at 39 minutes. Here we go. Only formulated this today. So, physical reality, easy. Okay, we've gone through some complicated stuff, so let's start with the easy stuff. Right, so we're driving, and we go, oh, what's that? And we see it. Okay, so whatever it is, we see it, we process what it is. Some part of our being acknowledges it, is comfortable acknowledging it. Okay, and there's some kind of processing going on there. And then we might go, and then there's a kind of more of a network, or it's related to other things. It's a mountain. Okay, and then we can say, literally, it's a mountain. Okay, we know it's a mountain, and the mountain has associations. It might be home, it might be a trip somewhere, it might be, going off on a retreat, it might be whatever it is. Okay, but however, before that, we have this kind of acknowledgement. Oh, it's not just like a spaceship. It's not a house. It's a mountain. Okay, and our being knows it's a mountain. Our being knows, not our concepts, not a concept. It's our being. Okay, so that's fairly obvious. Now, it gets a little bit tricky, but it's good to go into this little bit of trickiness. Okay, the bit that's interesting here is that mathematics in this physical object, physical reality, mountains, time, geology, how all that forms, again, that's like a map. That's a conceptual map. But the actual formation of the mountain that got there, the thousands of years, the millions of years that formed that mountain, all of that is an actuality. Whether we perceive it or not, it's actually happening. Okay, a mountaining thing is happening over there, right? How is that related to anything to do with the fact that we understand it? Well, okay, and specifically maths. What's the maths and geography of this thing? What's the maths of tectonic plates and what's that called? Where the tectonic plates hit each other. I can't remember. God, it's been so long since I used that word. And we have these models of the concept. So we've got this idea of a tectonic plate. That's a concept, okay? And how the concepts fit together. So more obviously, for example, it might not be a mountain, it might be a planet. Okay, now how the planets move literally rotating around each other as we spin through the galaxy and rotate around the center of the galaxy, and the whole entire galaxy is spinning off into, like, you know, the universe. Okay, how all that magic is occurring while we are talking and listening here. Okay, has any correlations to a little bit of scribbles of writings and maths? It's like, it's mind blowing. Einstein didn't understand what that was about, and it's something to do with the pattern of numbers. Okay, reveals, if we match it to certain aspects of physical reality, angle of the stars, and how they relate from one night to the next, and you can calculate, and you plot the points, and you do some kind of graphs, and you go, oh, right, okay, and you can predict, and mathematics of that, fantastic. And eventually you get E equals mc squared, and various things like that. And that is all mathematics, and it's a very, very, very specific form of representation that is produces a network, or conceptual network, very minimal system. E equals mc squared, it's very nice, or e to the pi I, or e to the tau I is equal to 1. Is a very nice, beautiful, little, concise description. Correlates in some form or other, actually, not e to the pi I, okay, but that correlates in some form or other to electromagnetic waves. E equals mc squared relates to, you know, atoms and things. All right, it has some kind of F equals ma. Okay, so fairly basic. Newton, F equals ma, force is equal to mass times acceleration, has some kind of correlation to the actuality of physical objects. So we've got a very precise little modelling of numbers, because numbers relate to things, and we model the patterns in that, and we put certain measurements to physical reality, and it has some kind of correlation. It's not through our sensory being, per se, okay? It's to do with, there is a map of maths, okay, and certain measurements that have to do with physical reality that bypasses whatever it is that you or I think, okay, how we perceive Mars or the sun or whatever it is, our symbolic network of what the sun means. You know, we're not talking about, you know, Atun or Ra or, you know, the sun god or anything like that. No. It's a fireball, and we're rotating around it. So we're bypassing this little bit. Now, the traditional method is we go, right here, what is it? Oh, okay, something or other, we experience it, and then we go, oh, it's a conceptual part of our map, and then we can describe it. Mathematics goes, okay, yeah, what's some of these direct measurements of physical reality, and we construct a little model. Now, that's science, and it correlates to some or other physical reality. Great. Now, when it's words, okay, and it's just words we're listening to, like a story or narrative, fiction, something like that, or, you know, some images on a film, okay, what's happening is that okay, I'm going to put a description here and say democracy. You hear the word democracy. Democracy. I know, all right. I know what democracy means. Now, actually what's happening is you're relating the word democracy, even though you hear it, into, I think the primary relationship is your conceptual network of what democracy is. And if you're well educated, it will have a whole bunch of associations to do with fairness, may have something to do with Athenians, might have, you know, history to do with Athenians, might have something to do with demos, meaning the people, krasi, meaning power. It might have some etymology of the word. It might have, you know, how healthy we are in the West with democracy, so on and so forth, right? And all of that is associations, okay? And that's the primary categorical interpretation. Even though it pops in just like everything else, just like looking at the mountain, okay, it comes in, there's some kind of processing. We go, but we're really into this territory. And this is the tricky bit. It seems that in academia and most of the West, because of our bias of science, we are attempting to apply our understanding of democracy to our actual experience of democracy. Now, our experience of democracy is something to do with when we leave the house and we wander around and we can buy things without anybody attacking us. We have certain comforts and rules and regulations that keep us, like, you know, assured. We have education systems. We have a huge number of, like, complex things going on that is validated every time we socialize. Okay, that's actually our experience of democracy. It's not really democracy we're experiencing. We're just experiencing an incredibly complex interaction with a whole bunch of people that are beyond our ability to understand, right? That's actually our experience, okay? And some people, when they hear the word democracy, they go, I don't know what the word means, I don't care about the associations, but I do directly apply it to my experience. Now, people listening like that, and I'm one of them, okay, because, I've got eczema. Okay, I'm literally scratching my neck, except my skin goes, something. And it means that whenever I feel anything, it's into the sensory aspect. So I've got an incredibly strong link between whatever the hell it is that actuality is, and it directly going through my body before I go, oh, okay. Okay, it's always going through this process. So I have an incredible bias for direct appreciation. So when everybody says any words, I go, yeah, okay, I don't care what the words are, whatever the usual network and categories and everything else that people make up. I'm interested in what's my actual experience of people and my summary of my interaction with people. We can call it democracy, we can call it social existence, we can call it whatever the hell you want to call it, right? And it has some kind of application to the word network that people have in their heads and the concepts that we build and we talk about and then we take part in and then people talk. It's called politics. It's like, oh yeah, okay, right. Politics for me is my direct experience of people, okay, applied to wider scale. It is not a separate capital P politics, which is a category of a bunch of people trying to work out what is actually going on. This is actually going on. Okay, now, we're getting this. Okay, now this starts getting tricky. So when you're listening to words, are we applying the word directly to our experience? We're going, oh yeah. Or are we going into the category network and then trying to work out what that means to our experience? That's a prime difference between us, okay, and how we're listening to another person and listening to their words. But let's say that we're not listening to their words. Okay, now, let's see that we are at the level that we're actually trying to follow the object of thought. That is the concepts that they're actually talking about. Now, if you're listening to the concepts, yes, there is sound. Yes, there is the formation of sound and everything else. But really, the relationship that you're focusing in, just in the same way most people, when they have words, they're trying to relate it to the concepts that they've got in their heads, is that when they're listening to concepts, you're correlating the let's say, for example, human being. We're not interested in what we mean by human being, the word human being. We're interested in the kind of concept of human being directly to my experience of being human. Ooh, okay, and my experience of human beings. And I'm relating these two, i.e. my conscious modeling of my actual experience. And that goes for any concept whatsoever. Okay, if you're following concepts, you're actually attempting to correlate your experience with your modeling system. Now, if we're listening like this, that means I'm aligning to objective thought, the other person's actually an objective thought, we have an equivalent and we're in phase to do with objective thought. And of course we're going to have differences because of the fact we have different experiences. But that's quite healthy. But we're not getting confused and to go, oh, it's a bunch of words. It's not a bunch of words. Okay, we're interested in this phase change. And going back to this thing over here, can you see this? Maybe not. We're talking about the phase change. Around that cycle, just about, you can just about see that. The phase change between going, okay, it's a word, it's a what the, okay, it's something or other, what's that? No, we understand. So we're interested actually in this bit. We're interested in the receptive state and the projective state. We're interested in the receptive state of what a human being is. Being sensitive. We have to be sensitive to what a human being is. Or whatever concept. We have to be sensitive to what a circle is. We have to be sensitive to how our mind comes up with anything, meaning, words, love, anything. It's not the words, whatever these words refer to in our actual formation, okay, in our receptive formation of experience as it is concurrently occurring. Okay, as opposed to our modeling concepts, whatever it is that we think it is. Okay, and that, when you're listening in a kind of conceptual way, you're attempting to correlate those two. Okay, not really the words. Okay, now that's where I work. Now, most teachers and stuff are kind of playing around there. Okay, and most post-conscious thinking is going around there. I'm interested in this bit. And I'm not even interested in trying to apply that way. I'm actually trying to apply it that way. So, and then we get into experiencing another human being. Okay, when we're experiencing another human being, that's the space. Okay, so we're not looking at objects. We're not interested in just the words. We're not even interested in the following, the concept. We're interested in the resonance of another human being. We're interested in the resonance of being, i.e., my being state and your being state. Okay, and we are resonating in that being state. And that occurs in this space. It occurs in this space, the projective reception, the receptive process. Before we talk, before we understand what the network of thoughts are, but certainly before we get to the words. Okay. And this is the space where it all happens. If we do not, here we go, if we do not get this mathematics formalized so that, well, math's already been formalized. If we don't get an interpretive, sensitive interpretation of this mathematics in order for it to increase our sensitivity to one another, because that is where our sense of we comes from. Can you see that? That is where our sense of we comes from. This space here.